Hi again and welcome to a bit more Dreamweaver. If you remember at the end of the last video, we ended up with something like this. This is looking at it in a web browser. So we've got a header at the top here and a footer and a body in the middle. This time we're going to focus on this body bit, this main area of the website. So by this stage, you've probably done some adjustments to what's going on in the header and what's going on in the footer. Got it to all look lovely. And if we come back to Dreamweaver here, your particular HTML may look a bit different to this, but essentially this bit in the middle of here, this main part of the website, will probably look something like mine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put in some div tags within here. We're going to apply some classes to it, and what I'm going to show you is how to lay out in sort of a grid style. Now I'm going to show you a grid involving 3 columns. But of course, you can adjust that to how many columns you want. So you've got to imagine that if you imagine the page set into columns, or how you've probably maybe done it in the past with a table, putting a table in the middle of the page, this allows that structure to be put into a website, but it allows it to be a lot more dynamic, and it is best practice really. Tables are not best practice at all, and I'll show you why. Okay, so let's crack on. So we're in the main here. I'm just going to click here in the HTML just because I find it easier to do it like this. And the first thing I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to insert a div into there. Okay, at the insertion point. Okay, so I've inserted a div there and you can see that it goes there and it's put it up there and it's put some text in for us like this. All right, so I've got a div within there. The reason why I put a div in there is because I'm going to go to the CSS designer. I'm just going to pull this out a bit here so we get the properties bit popping up. There we go. You may already have that up on yours. Okay, so we want to effectively have some sort of control over what happens to this div. Because if you look on here, look, the content of this main is actually going too wide on my particular design. You might want it like that for some bizarre reason, I don't know, but I don't. Okay, so I want some control over what happens here. So I'm going to actually choose a selector here, and I'm going to call this grid. Okay, in here. And this grid, I know that this up here, remembering that this here was 1200 pixels in width, yours might be different. So whatever your width was up there, so I'm going up here, pixels, and I'm going 1200. Oh, I'm not putting it in there. Why am I putting it up there? That's a bit strange. Sorry, I'll just get rid of that. Again, I'm actually putting it in max width. That'd be a better place to put it. So I want a maximum width for that because, as I've talked about before, you never actually know what browser size somebody's going to use this on. So this is a maximum width, which allows it to go smaller. Okay, so I'm putting a maximum width in there of 1200 pixels. Okay, and I also want to put some margins on that, which are auto. Auto was a way, if you remember, of centering it on the page. So in here, double click, sorry, come off it, single click, come to the auto, and the same here as well. To there, click auto. So I've now got that auto centered on there, but it's not actually done anything to this particular tag here because I haven't applied the class. So if I now put that class in, grid, there, okay, and press enter. Okay, now it's moved it to the center there. What I'm also going to do is I'm also going to put a margin at the top as well. I'll just start to move this. Look, it starts to move it down just so I can separate it from being too close to this bit at the top. And I can have it whatever I want. I think I'll leave it at 7 or something like that. So if I do Control S now to save that, and then I come to here and I go refresh there. See, we've got this particular content for div tag goes here. In this there. Oh, it hasn't actually done it because I haven't saved that as well. So I need to save the CSS as well, and then I'll refresh that. And if you look there, it's moved it down to there. So that's quite nice. That's given me a little space for there. Another way to have a look better at this as to how it's actually behaving is to go to this particular grid here and stick an actual background color in it so you can actually see what's going on. So if I did that, stuck a background color in that, I went Control S in here and Control S in there, came back to here and hit refresh. Then you'd be able to see, and look how it now sits flush there, and that's quite nice. All right, so I set a particular like a row almost in a table, if you want to call it that, but I've got myself a container there which sits there. If you just want a container that's like that, you can start putting images and text into that. I'm going to create actually a 3-column structure here. So I'm going to create 3 containers that are side by side, and I'm going to use something called float. Float is basically just understanding that things will bob to the surface or press to the surface or get pushed down like they would in water, based on whether a website is getting expanded or a browser is getting expanded, should I say, or getting contracted. So we're just going to use something called float left in here. Okay, and that's going to make everything flow upwards and to the left and make it go side by side. It's better to actually see it working and rather than trying to explain it to you. Okay, so in this particular grid here, I'm going to create other divs. So I'm going to create another div which goes inside there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to insert again, and I'm going to create div in here, and at this insertion point I'm going to create it there. Okay, so we've got a div here, and then I'm going to do the same thing again as I did before, where I'm going to apply a class to it. So I'm going to add a selector here, and I'm going to call this .col for column. All right, and press enter in here. So we've got ourselves 2 divs going on actually there. I'll change the background color of this so you can actually see that it is a different div to that. Nothing happens, of course, at the moment because there's no actual class applied to this. Oh, do that, yeah, okay. So I want to go dog col in there, like that, to it like that. Okay, and it goes blue. So you can see it's actually sat on top of it there. All right, so this one here, I'm going to have it floating left. Okay, and then if you notice, look, it's starting to float left, but it's pressing that one out there. That's absolutely fine. That's okay. So I've got a div call there, and I've got a div of grid up there, and the grid is the one that I turned blue. Okay, so the other one I did the wrong one. So that's the call grid, and this one's red here. This one down here, which is the column, is, let's come up here. Okay, so that div is the column one, and that div is that one there. Okay, that's cool. So we've got 2 particular divs going on here. In the column one, what I actually want to do is take off show setup here. What I actually want to do with this one is, for the div column, is I want to float this left, which I've got there, which I already did before. And then I'm going to actually set the maximum width of this to be a percentage. So the percentage I'm going to do for this is actually going to be 31%. And the reason it's 31% is because I want 3 columns to take it to 100%, but I actually want a little margin in between each one. And the margin I want in between each column is 1%. So 31 plus 1 for each one is going to be 33%, because I'm going to have 31 plus 31 plus 31, okay, equals 93. And then I'm going to have the percentage in between them and either side of them. So there's going to be a 1% on the left, a 1% on the right, and so on and so on. So each one's got 2% with it, 2%, 4%, 6%. It's going to take me more or less to that 100%. It's definitely not going to take me over. Okay, so here's where a little bit of rudimentary maths comes into it. So I've got a 31% there, and I'm going to change this one also to 1%. In the margin. Okay, so 1% in here. So I'm going to have that there, going like that, and then I've got myself a little column going on there. Okay, so what I want to do with that there is then to copy and paste that. So then if I go Control C, come down here and go Control V, and come down here and go Control V, okay, within this div class grid, okay, and that particular div in there. That one's got a bit weird there. I'm just moving that one down to there. Okay, so we've got 3 divs going on here. Yeah, they all sit within that grid one there. All right, so all of them are floating left. But at the moment, they look a bit odd, but let's try and expand them out a bit. So what do they look like? So I'm just putting in some text to expand them out a bit. okay, just to their maximum size. Okay, and I'm just going to stick that one in to here as well. Okay, so we've just got this going a little bit bigger than what it is. I'm just going to save this, and I'm just going to save the source code in here and see what this looks like when I come to browser, and then when I stick it in there. Okay, so they're still not showing a lot, so I need to go back and put some more X's in just to make these a little bit bigger. And I'll just stick that in there. Control S, come back to here. Okay, now we start to see that they're actually a little bit bigger and where they're positioned on the actual page. Still not sitting quite right, so I've got something going on here and here. But what the beauty of this is when I start to do this down here, you see how they're actually moving down. I'll just move this across here so you can see better. See how they're moving relative to the actual size of the page, or the width of the page, as it were. And the XXX actually goes outside of the box because it's all one word, so it goes a bit weird at the end. But you can actually see how those containers move relative to the page. If you had that as a table, that wouldn't work like that. It would look odd. So it makes it more responsive, in other words. Okay, so we've got these particular divs here. Let's just have a look at what's wrong with my column. Maximum width 31%. I've got this on a left float, that's correct. I've got it's the margin. So I didn't do the margin on this side at 1%. That's where I made my mistake. So I need a 1% margin there as well. I should have pressed enter. So I've got 1% on either side. I'll go Control S here. I'll go Control S here. I'll come back to here and I'll go refresh there. And when I refresh there, take it back to maximum size. Look, they sit nicely in the middle there. And when I make them smaller, and pull them in a bit like this, they then go down in size as well.